If you want the slides ahead of time or even now, you can go onto the website currently. You can download the PDF and you can follow along whatever you want to do online. So I guess the people that are watching from home, wherever you are, go to adambianco.com/mastermind. So I'm trying this out, and then I have a bunch of other presentations I give, so I'll put them on the site too if you ever want to dabble a little bit on that. That said, briefly about myself and Tidespin, I've had actually the bulk of my experience in the hospitality industry. I've used that and took that experience in services and kind of translated it over to the laundry service I'm in now. You can connect with me on the left-hand side, any one of the social accounts, especially on LinkedIn. And the right, I have two side projects. One is I'm a diehard Buckeye fan, born and raised in Columbus, so I have the world's largest Ohio State football Twitter account. I started back in the day. And most recently, Project Sports Foodie comes and goes a little bit in terms of the side hustle. But that is sports food influencer of sorts, and Instagram grew that to about over 20,000 in about a year. So that's what we're talking about today. Briefly about Tidespin, we pick up, clean, and deliver your laundry. Startup here in Chicago, backed by P&G and Tide. I've been around for a little over a year. You basically get clothes right from your house and deliver it back fresh, clean, folded, and ready to go. If you want to try it out, you can use my name. First order free up $25 off. We're running a contest. As many people can use our code. If I'm the leader, I get a $100 Amazon gift card. That was my idea, so of course I'm promoting it. So try it out, use us, and let us know what you think. That said, 13 tips to master Instagram. Normally this is a 2-hour workshop. I shrunk it down to remove all the fluff and just dive right in. Sound good? We'll try to get this in like 30 minutes. Oh, does anyone know ahead of time how many hashtags you can use? 30. You're wrong.
Well, 60.
Ah, she knows it. 60. I'll tell you, so we'll talk about that for a few minutes. Do we have a whiteboard in here by chance? Is this like whiteboard paint? Does anyone know? Just write on the wall and see what happens? Cool. And also, one of the big caveats of Instagram is that you cannot post from your desktop. It's one of the big pain points. I will show you how you can do that. So if you don't know how to do either of those two, you're going to learn at least a little something today. So the first, a couple basic ones, and I'll try not to trip on this, but I probably will at some point. Is it right for me? So if you're just getting started, Instagram sits pretty firmly in the B2C market, business to consumer. Doesn't mean you have to be B2C, but a lot of companies, if they're more the B2B space, use Instagram with a different strategy, whether that's to showcase their company culture and they use it as a recruiting tool or really as a brand awareness tool. It works really well with these folks. Usually the sexier the better for the most part. If food's great, it's visually interesting. Travel, people love to see where they want to go. Celebrities, of course, use it all the time. But I'm not into fashion. I'm into food a little bit. Laundry's not in any one of these. Laundry's probably like the least sexiest thing out there, which is great for social media for our purposes. But it also works, so if you're any one of these, great. But again, it doesn't mean you have to be in those spots to be successful. Now, how do I get started? A couple of things I want to point out here, and again, we'll go over just some of the highlights of these early ones. Use this title. All these characters is searchable. So if you don't get the username you want, don't worry. Just make sure your name is correct right here. But then more often than not, a lot of people have a lot of leftover characters that they're not using. Think of those SEO keywords and put those to the right. Use the bar I like to use and use it to the right. The other thing I want to call out is links. We'll talk about links quite a bit over the next 30 minutes. For the most part, Instagram, one of the big pain points of Instagram is that it's not friendly of getting people back to whatever direction you're trying to go, to an app, into a website, because there's one link that people can click on. That's slowly changing. I'll talk more about it in a few minutes. But generally, they have this link. People use it in one of two ways. One is just their general URL, and they just use it to advertise. They say that we actually do have a website, and here it is. The second thing, though, is if you produce a lot of content, if you share update posts often, if you're one of the HubSpot, BuzzFeed, whatever that is, they switch to that link about once a day max. It's because if they're posting multiple times a day, they may call out an article in one of those posts. And that's the article they reference in that link. If they change it out more than once a day, someone will go on at 3 o'clock and see that post they shared 6 hours ago. They click on that link. It's already changed, starts creating a bad user experience. So if you do produce a lot of content, share that about once a day. Yeah?
So in one of the communities I follow, a lot of people use link trees in that place, do you recommend or not recommend that?
Yeah, you can use them. So Linktree's, click on it, sends you different directions. We use a service called Branch. So for the App Store, for apps, we use a service called Branch, and there's one called Apps Flyer as well. That if you're using it from a Android device, it sends you to the Google Play Store, it sends you to an Apple device, it sends you to the App Store, so things along those lines as well. So Linktrees are even better if you want to get more in depth. So tip number 3, content. What do I talk about? First, the basics of Instagram, of course, photos, and more photos, and there's a little bit of video too. But photos can be broken out even more into collages, into infographics, quotes, and stop motion. So if you're a B2B space, you may use infographics a little bit more. If you are not a designer, there's plenty of services out there. One I recommend is called Canva. If you're not familiar with it, it's like Canvas, but without an S. Any service that I've referenced throughout the presentation actually have a slide at the end that tells you all about it. But Canva is a great way to make you look professional without being a professional, which is nice. Whatever you do post, remember you're always competing with puppies and babies. Or worse, puppies and babies. I love the guy on the left. As a side note, that's my husky on the left. I have no idea whose baby that is on the right. It's a Google image. Hopefully I won't get sued for that one. Now that's online, of course. The biggest thing, and one of my main pain points of some of these workshops, and this is the opposite of this, but you come to these and there's not tangible takeaways. You come and like, great high-level talk, but what can I use starting tomorrow? What can I use starting now? This is the one point where I will get kind of high level, and you may hate me for it, but the biggest thing you can take away in terms of content, and the question you need to ask yourselves is, how do you tell your story visually? And that can be anything. But really, at the end of the day, how do you do what you're doing, and how can I tell and share that story visually? I'll give one example of this, and I'll use a sports reference. And at this point now, this is before Instagram stories, and they probably would use Instagram stories to showcase this. But the Pittsburgh Penguins, during the Stanley Cup a year and a half ago, asked that exact question: how do I tell my story visually throughout the day? And they start at the beginning of the day very early, and they give you all the details of the game. This is game 2, leading up to it. There's morning skate. There's a break in the action, so they showcase highlights from game 1. They showcase scenes around the city of people getting involved. Then they go to the game. Game time, warm-ups, the start and face-off. They have about probably 10 posts between here and the very end of the game. They go to highlights and stats, and then you can't really read this, but on the right it says, a little infographic in the morning. Dear whomever, please excuse the employee. He or she was up late celebrating a big win. You should take the day off as well. Sincerely, the Pittsburgh Penguins. But they ask this question: how do I tell my story visually throughout the day? Now, sports is a bit of a cop-out because they can do just about anything and people love it. And it's very easy and they have great content. But for yourself as well, is how do you tell your story visually? Whatever you post, don't expect your post to go viral. Unlike this thing, that's the most viral content ever, most likely. To this day, people argue, who says this is blue and black? Raise your hand. Anybody? A couple people. Who says it's white and gold? It's probably my first workshop that's been almost unanimous. Yes, don't expect it to go viral. One of the big things about Instagram, though, and oftentimes there's some sort of theme. So we talked about the content hub a little bit earlier. And I do something very similar in terms of like the content web. Similar but a little bit different, but you have some sort of central theme to it. And then you slowly branch out, and you can break away from that theme a little bit, for the most part, but there's something that ties back to it. So when people follow your brand or follow your fun side hustle that you're doing on Instagram, they know what you're getting when you start interacting with them, when they follow your account. Food in the air. Well, it's just food in the air, and it has over 300,000 followers. You wouldn't think it, but it's pretty basic. This guy right here, oh hey, it's Chaz, dresses up as famous people and does side-by-side portraits. That's all he does. Jason Peterson, if you've ever seen him, great Chicago, he's at Havas here in Chicago. Beautiful black and white photography. He's so good, the Cubs and Bulls have asked him to come out, photograph him, different events. Choose Chicago, you're probably all very familiar with that. Great Chicago photography and what's going on in the city. Zach King does more videos, all those crazy cuts of videos that I wish I knew how to do. He does an amazing job with it. And one of my favorites, Fashion Dads. You might expect you know what that is. But again, these are all accounts that when you know you're going to that account, you look at their feed, you know exactly what you're getting when you go to it. It's very important when you start doing proactive engagement. You start trying to get people to follow your account. The top follows, I stopped updating this a while ago, but it's basically the top celebrities. You got the Kardashians, half the family's on the left, or half the list is Kardashians. Then you really got Instagram, nature, sports on the right. A little bit later, I have a link in here. We won't really dive into it, but there's Instagram just released their 2017 year in review, which has all this information, basically the same. The top post of 2017, any guesses? Does anyone know what it is? What's that? It was not Selena Gomez. It was Beyonce and her baby photo. The one in February. Yeah, everyone's like, yeah, I like that one. Yeah, you did. It was the most liked. So a couple fun things to tie in. When we talk about content as well, I always reference there's a couple spots where I really like to learn how to stay relevant. Media is one of those things. News, what's happening on the world. Holidays are great things to do as well. Always ask, you can try to create your own topic and try to create yourself being interesting, but half the battle is also just how do you stay relevant? How do you use what people are talking about already and staying relevant in that space? A couple examples. This slide's old. It's from 2 years ago, but it's very relevant to today, which Star Wars comes out tomorrow. Super psyched. I'm actually ecstatic right now. But you wouldn't expect these 3 different brands to collaborate with Star Wars or just highlight Star Wars. You wouldn't expect a really bad football team from New Jersey to do a lightsaber battle, but they're trying to get street cred with the young high school recruits, so they did a lightsaber battle inside their locker room. Or this tattoo parlor. First, someone had to be dumb enough to get a tattoo of BB-8 as Minnie Mouse, but someone did, and they showcased it, whether it was at their tattoo parlor or they ripped that content from somewhere else. I should have actually just highlighted the original bakery that did this, but this is absolutely amazing. I want to eat that, all of it, and I would gain like 100 pounds in the process. But they all asked the exact same question. How can I be relevant with what's going on at this point in time? If you remember 2 years ago, every single brand, offline and online, was tying in with Star Wars somehow. You had like Millennium Falcon Egos. They were great, delicious. But if you don't know where to start in terms of content, look at what your competitors are doing. What are the top people doing in the industry? Again, a little high level, but that's one of the best places you can start if you're just getting started. So how do I get more engagement? Well, first, a couple ways. If you ask generally, you shall receive. First, use the words double tap in the front of your photo. Less relevant for Instagram, but if you Twitter, same thing. If you want to get retweeted, put RT in the front, you're 4 times more likely to get retweeted. Same style thing. My favorite is tag a friend. It introduces someone that's not already signed on to your account and liked your account. Tag a friend's my favorite. When I posted this for Sports Foodie, I averaged about like 5 comments a photo. I did tag a friend, tag an eating partner who could eat this for this one. I got about 80 comments on that photo. I did not personally eat this, someone else's content. These crazy people in Australia, they go in the back of the kitchens in Melbourne and they create these gigantic burgers. And I think they eat them. They may not eat them. I hope they do not eat them for their sake. They won't be around much longer if they keep doing this. And then another way to do it. Generally, people don't like words on their photos. If you ever seen, if you put a caption on top of the photo, it usually gets less engagement. However, if you are going to do it, the more stylized it is, the better it looks, the more likely people are going to respond to it and get engagement. Trivia question. When have I seen you before? Host one? Did I talk about this? Don't spoil it if you know the answer. That's what I'm trying to get at. There's 3 main sizes to Instagram. Obviously, you can mix and match anything. Who says the original square gets the most engagement, most likes on average? Who says the vertical one, portrait? People. Who says this really pretty landscape, the horizontal one? The correct answer is this guy. I have an official case study, but just posting a lot, I know.
First-hand testimonial.
What's that?
I said first-hand testimonial.
Yeah.
I actually switched my practice and I get a lot more engagement on those.
And why is it? Why is that?
Because it takes up more real estate.
More real estate. It takes a lot longer to scroll past this guy. Whether you're watching TV or, God forbid, you're driving while you're looking at Instagram. This one you scroll by real fast. Obviously, the content, the picture matters, but it's the same picture. We're going to scroll past one a lot quicker. Let's put it on the Now, generally, there's two different types of engagement when it comes to social media. Reactive is what you're doing already. Someone comments on your post or send you a message. You're interacting with that. Where the growth is proactive. This is you seeking out conversations, seeking out followers. On Instagram, a couple good ways to do this is one, of course, hashtags. If you're following a certain topic or you're in a certain industry, you can search hashtags. I really like locations. Makes the most sense for sports foodie, for instance. I will go to New Orleans Men's Superdome via Instagram, find all the photos that have beer in it, that have a food item in it. I'll like, comment, follow those people. That's where I go and start gaining followers, start building that community. Twitter's probably the best spot for that. And for Tide's good, if you talk about dry cleaning, if you talk about laundry in the vicinity of Chicago, more often than not, or if we're on it, we'll be commenting back if we find this an opportunity. So people are like, oh, my washer and dryer just broke down, my dry cleaner's closed, or they ruined something. That's when we can jump in and be part of that conversation. During certain workshops, I test McDonald's. McDonald's has a huge team that does this. And I'll just say, like, I really want McFlurry. We'll time and see how long it takes for them to respond. They're really good at it. Wendy's is probably the best, though, in terms of just meeting value on Twitter. I love it. So tip 5, when and how often should I post? First one on the left, how often? A lot of different studies, and they said very similar things, about 1 to 2 times a day. Now this was before the algorithm started changing. I'll talk about the algorithm a little bit more when we come to ads. I've actually seen this number start dropping. A couple times a week is usually how we need to post. Because photos are starting to live longer on the platform, depending on how often people are checking. They check every 2 hours, yeah, sure, your content's going to go by a lot quicker. A lot of people check even once a day or once every couple days. Your content has a longer lifespan. When should I post? I looked at about 10 different studies when I put the slide together, and they said about 10 different things. It really comes down to your analytics, which we'll talk about more in a few moments. What's the best way to share? Who can tell me what's wrong with this phone? If you can read the text from there. There's two main things that's wrong with this phone. Best way to share on other platforms. What's that?
Twitter doesn't show up as a link.
It's got one. Exactly. Twitter. You share it to Twitter, it just shows up as a link. It doesn't actually show up as a piece of content. Yeah, so that's what number 1. Never do that. What's that? Not as much on Facebook for that aspect, but when you look at the caption, oftentimes with any social post, you need to change the caption to fit whatever platform you're posting on. You can't double tap on Facebook. Double tap doesn't make sense on there. It's a very Instagram specific caption. So generally when you do share it Twitter, you can copy that caption, tweak it whatever you want to do, and then share it organically on Twitter as well. So how do I grow my account? This one goes till 4:15.
This one goes until 4:10, and then we have a 5-minute break, and then 4:15 to 5.
Got it. All right. I'm going to try to crush this in like 10 minutes. The rest of like, they're actually longer. So how do I grow? I'm going to skip over part. I'm going to just talk to us a little bit. First, the best way to grow is going to have proactive engagement. First, do the basics. Publicize your account everywhere. For the most part, engage with people. We'll talk about hashtags and tagging people in a moment. When we look at proactive engagement, the best thing to do if you're really trying to grow your account is find the valuable followers. And what I usually say to find those people is going to be, if they like, I frame it this way, if they like this account or this brand, they're going to like me. So you go after people. I know when I was running sports food, I was looking at Burger Lovers 101 or MLB food. And I was interacting with those followers quite a bit. Or again, interacting with people that were sharing the types of content I post in New Orleans or in Phoenix. And it was those accounts I was looking at and saying, how can I engage with them? For the most part, the ROI in your time, following is usually the best way to do it. Now, people do ask, then you just start growing your followers, and then that ratio, that social credibility ratio gets off. Well, dirty secret's not really a secret. You can imagine what you have to do at some point in time is
Probably have to unfollow them. It's not the best tactic, but if you're in the market to grow your account quickly, that's one way to do it, but try to gather quality followers. If that number is high and they're not engaging with your post, that's just a hollow number that you have. It's really should take time as well to build that community when they do follow. This goes to, we'll talk about hashtags in a moment. You can tag up to 20 people in a photo. Now, why would you tag someone in a photo that's not actually in a photo? That's because you want to tag people that you want to see your photo. Those are publications, influencers. Who do you want to get in front of? Those are the people you want to tag in your photo. I pull emojis that don't sometimes show up. Basically, third-party services, short answer to that is don't use them for the most part. Use them at your own risk. There are certain ones that I know people use that can use them semi-effectively, but it's against the terms and conditions, and the more aggressive you use them, the more likely you're going to get caught. So know that's a topic that people ask about. So now hashtags. And do we have a whiteboard in here? It's okay, I made a digital version of this, but it's not as fun. First, and I'll talk to it, first thing to do is you use up to 30. I'll tell you how to use 30 real quick. Generally, I put 3 to 5 in the main caption. So for this case, I'll use 3 here. So that means 27 is going to come in the first comment. So caption and comment. To do the comment well, if you've seen the, let me go back and forth a little bit on here. Seen this symbol before? This guy? Ever wonder how they do it? It's because they put 5 dots. Twist around. They do dot, enter, dot, enter, dot, enter, dot, enter, dot, enter, and they put the rest of the hashtags. That gets you, that equals that. Now, why do you do that? It's because it just looks cool. Part of social media, kind of growing your account a little bit, so you want to look like you got growing it, but you want to show that you're hustling now. And then you got to make it like cool, so you're growing your account. Now, how do you break up 30 hashtags? How do you know what to post? I think of them as 3 chunks. The first 10, or first chunk, is going to be what's very specific to the photo itself. So in this case, it's brunch, it's wings, it's donuts. This takes place in Chicago. So 10 that are very specific to the photo. My third section are ones that are very popular on Instagram. You can search this organically, just type it in hashtags. You can look at Instagram's top hashtag list, which is on the 2017 year in review. And those are the very popular ones. Hashtag love, hashtag amazing, hashtag whatever. But the middle chunk is really the bread and butter. Those are ones that are specific to your industry, specific to your topic. Those are the ones that I generally say are between like 100,000 and about 10 million. Ones that are popular, but not super popular. Ones that will show up in your feed and will last a little bit on that feed until they get buried by everything else as time goes on. Those are the middle chunk. And for the most part, those bottom 20, number 2, number 3 section, that doesn't change generally from post to post. It's that first initial 10 that are very specific to the photo. They're normally, those are the ones that rotate. Now, as you might expect, I may answer your question potentially as you go on. So ask it if I can get done with it. Now, how do you make that? It's very time consuming to do 30 hashtags. How do you do it effectively? People use the Notes tab and the Notes app. They do the dots and they do the hashtags. That's the way the rookies do it. The way the serious pros do it is, I think you mentioned it earlier with Andy. It's that autocorrect. You put this in an autocorrect on your phone. Whether you want to type in I like he does, or I use #1, #2, whatever. You set your autocorrect. So you type it out in Notes, type your dots, type your hashtags. Type down Notes, you copy it, then you go with the autocorrect. The thing that you hate, the thing that when I type in food, it changes to good for some reason. Because food apparently is not a popular word enough that it doesn't make sense. I have no idea why. But that's where you put in autocorrect. And you change it, and it spits out 30 hashtags. Or 27 hashtags for instance, because you put the first 3 at the top. And that's how you do it effectively. And that is broken down into this in very written form, which you can get when you download the slides. Now, how to do it, so how to do 60. This is not actually in here, so you have to remember this trick. To do 60 is very simple. You post 0 to start, probably shouldn't say this when online, because the challenge tries to stay in the room. You posted 0 to start. This tricks Instagram, thinking you posted 0 hashtags total. When you do that, you then post 30 hashtags in the first comment. And once you do that, you go back up to the caption and put in your thing. So the trick is posting 0 originally. And now you really need to use the autocorrect because there's 0 chance you can type in 60 hashtags. Remember that every single time it'll take you 30 minutes. There will be a time. All right. Sweet, 5 minutes. How to get influencers' attention. The short version of this is email them. They're a business. They work in one of 2 ways, for product or cash, or both, for the most part. The more followers they have, the more they're going to ask for. You can mention them, but they're never going to see it. They get a million different notifications every single day. So email them or send them a direct message. Instagram's actually changing a couple things that are new. Instagram's experimented with changing the way influencers work. You may have seen the hashtag spawn, hashtag ad previously. We're looking at maybe changing this location area to make it sponsorship. And when it comes to content overall, slide should probably be earlier. It's just stay consistent with it. We talked about that, I think, throughout today. If you're a football account, don't start talking about cupcakes. Let's start talking about football cupcakes. You can divert a little bit from the hub, from the core. You can't go too far away from the core. That's irrelevant. So, post from a desktop. It's actually really simple. You just download this Google Chrome extension. It's really for developers, so you can see what your product or your website looks like on your phone. Without having to go to the phone. You can download the extension, switch to a mobile browser. You don't have as many features as you might imagine, but you can still do it. So if you're a graphic designer, you make everything for your desktop, this will be your best friend. Are there analytics for Instagram? Yes, there are. We'll actually go over this in the next presentation. A lot of analytics. The way to see it is one, you can use one of these services. I use Econo Square. It's about $5 a month. But there's an also way to see it through business profiles. Has anyone switched to a business profile? Yes. A couple of you. I think there are 25 million business profiles. The trick is, and we'll talk about this more next time, but everything's moving to an algorithm base. If you remember back in 2009, Facebook changed their algorithm from most recent to the timeline. And everyone started freaking out. And they were never going to use Facebook again. And what they do, they went on Facebook to complain about it. And they just kept using it every day since. Since then, every social network has changed to an algorithm at some point. What did Facebook do in 2009? They did that, and they made pages so businesses can extend past 5,000 friends. And they started shrinking the organic reach of that page. Instagram, a year ago, switched an algorithm. They're doing business profiles. And what do you think they're going to do next? They're going to do the exact same thing. So if you do switch, what I recommend, what you did, they switched, got all their analytics, and then they switched back. So there's still value. So switch at your own risk a little bit. Depends on your business. At this point, there's no limit to how many followers you can have as a personal profile. But at some point, they probably will stop people switching back. So you can switch your own risk. Some of the analytics, you see impressions, reach, engagement. You'll see this switch. You can see time of day where your followers are, gender breakdown, city, when they're most active. So when it comes to, again, which do you post, look at when your followers are most active. Best way to do it. So what is new with Instagram? A lot of different things. There are a lot more ads on the platform. The collages can now post up to 10 photos in a row. One of the big thing though is, of course, look at this link. This is new. A lot of shopping is now taking place. So Instagram is starting to become more business friendly. If you have a Shopify account, they just rolled this out to the common folk. It used to be just big brands. You have to, I believe you just have to have a Shopify account, Shopify-enabled website. You now click on any post, highlight it, and then you can start giving affiliate links. You can start with a catalog of your own brand. You can start doing that. So that's going to be really big soon. And then Instagram Stories, the biggest thing. The best part of Instagram Stories, the best way to stay in front of your customers. Oftentimes, you will normally have a different strategy for your regular feed versus Instagram stories. Instagram stories is much more kind of behind the scenes, day in the life, the less polished version. People sometimes get hand-tied with posts on Instagram because they think everything has to be so pretty. And it kind of does a little bit. Better looking content does, the better it does overall. But stories doesn't have to be it. A couple best practices for it is, I think this is on the next one, is update your story throughout the day. So if you take a lot of content at once, oftentimes I see people make a mistake of posting all their photos at once. What you want to do is, as your little head, when you post content, goes to the top left, throughout the day it moves to the right, and then say wait an hour or two, let it move to the right, and then post your next photo. Then it moves to the right again, post your next photo. So your brand always stays in that top left-hand portion. One of the new things they're doing is links. So we talked about links, they're more business friendly again. If you have over 10,000 followers at this point, I will roll it out to everyone soon. They now have a call to action and a link in a story. So influencers are doing a lot of this. Link back to my website and back to my catalog. So Instagram has finally become business friendly. So that a lot of the problems of Instagram in the past are starting to wash away. And then you don't have to, the other thing I'll point out here, two things, is one, you can make graphics for Instagram too, stories. Don't just think it's real time, you actually can make graphics that fit the dimensions, post on above. Then use this to, in a unique way, build suspense for a launch. Talk about the story that is on your website. You can see behind the scenes of it. Just rolled out recently as well as archives of stories. You can now save archives for your personal account and showcase the different collections and everything. So they had this for regular feed, and now they have it for stories as well. So any other tools I should know about? Here, you can take a screenshot of this. This is just a kind of starter kit for small businesses. A couple things I'll point out. Amy talked a lot about Google Analytics. SimilarWeb is what people don't really know too much, and that's basically Google Analytics for every site that's not your own. So if you want to see how much traffic Orbit Media gets, I looked up in the presentation, it's like around 300,000 views each month, which is awesome. So SimilarWeb is great. MailChimp is free up to 2,000 subscribers for email marketing. It's cheap. And then you see one of the SEO tools he uses, Moz. It's a fantastic SEO tool. A little bit more in terms of Instagram. These are some of the apps that I recommended throughout. Canva's right here. It's a desktop-based app. Take Stitch for collages, a lot of different word-based apps you can use. Tons out there. Let's see. Oh, maybe that's 412. That's Instagram in a very quick, short period